So the next UFC card taking place after UFC 300 is going to be UFC Fight Night Nicolau versus Perez, which is, to be fair, not a very good card. It's taking place in the Apex, but I will talk about that in a second. I just wanted to mention this card at the time of me uploading the video is not coming out this weekend. It's going to be on the 27th of April. Not this weekend, but there is an event on this weekend that is MMA, and an event that if you do want to watch an MMA event this weekend and you can't watch the UFC because it's not on, I recommend you check out this PFL card, man. It's a really stacked PFL card. I've already talked about it on my channel. I've already given my predictions for it on my channel as well. So I recommend maybe just pause the video or check out the Tapology page and just have a look through this card. This is a good one. It's a good PFL card. Predictions are already out on my YouTube channel right now for that PFL event. And also I have written an article for that event for the We Want Picks premium membership service, which is on their website, wewantpicks.com. $10 per month, but you can get a 3-day free trial if you do sign up using my code ARTEM, and you can cancel during that 3-day free trial as well, so it won't cost you anything if it is just something that you're not interested in. But what you get is Angelo's bets for the UFC, Jacob's bets for the UFC, which are the two members of the We Want Picks channel, and then also a bunch of other tools, as well as an article that I write every single week. So check that out using my code ARTEM for a 3-day free trial, and it is $10 per month, which is very good value when you do consider how much other people do charge for a somewhat similar service. Maheshate Hayisaer versus Gabriel Benitez is going to be kicking off the card, and I'm going to be picking Maheshate in this matchup here. Gabriel Benitez is a former featherweight that moved up to lightweight, and unfortunately he has been fighting relatively actively because he reminds me every time he fights of what is probably the worst pick in Artem MMA's YouTube channel history. Charlie Ontiveros versus Gabriel Benitez, and yes, I did pick Charlie Ontiveros in that matchup, and I don't know why I remind myself of that every time he fights. But I'm going to pick Maheshate for the exact same reasons why I picked Charlie Ontiveros in that matchup. To start with, Benitez is a guy that gets finished at 145 pounds. He's not big for 155. Maheshate is 6 foot, hits with a lot of power at this weight class, at lightweight. And he's going to finish Gabriel Benitez. Gabriel Benitez has been knocked out 4 times in his career, lost to Jim Miller. He's been knocked out 4 times, submitted 5 times now. Lost to Jim Miller in a matchup there recently. He's taking on a young, up-and-coming striker in Maheshate, who I do think is better than that 2-fight losing streak does suggest. He did lose to Rafa Garcia, but that was a bad matchup as Garcia is a wrestler. And then he lost to Borchev, who is also a bad matchup because Vyacheslav Borchev, if you guys didn't know, is a multiple-time Russian national kickboxing champion with over 200 amateur kickboxing fights. Yeah, just a bad matchup for Maheshate. I think he knocks out Gabriel Benitez here. I think he's the better striker. He's going to be so much bigger than Gabriel Benitez. He's going to keep it on the feet. So yeah, give me Maheshate by KO. He's a good striker. He's powerful. He's quick. And he also knocked out Steve Garcia. And that win has aged very well, as Steve Garcia has gone on quite the run at 145 pounds. Ivana Petrovic is going to be taking on Liang in the second fight of the night here. And that's another thing I wanted to mention, sorry. Every single fighter on the prelims is coming off a loss in the UFC, or is making their UFC debut, or a no contest. So that's just kind of what we're dealing with the card. Petrovic versus Liang. I am going to pick Petrovic, but do not bet on Petrovic at minus 450 because Liang, I know she's on a 3-fight losing streak. She's actually very dangerous. She's got a lot of first-run finishes in her career, albeit against girls that really are not her level whatsoever. Very much a padded record. But she still is a lights-out grappler. She still does have power on the feet. And she still gave Ariane Canelossi a pretty decent fight 3 years ago. But after that, she got knocked out by Silva Gomez Suarez. She got TKO'd by JJ Aldrich. And that's one thing about Liang. She's got no defense and she's got absolutely no cardio whatsoever. But in my opinion, I do think that she is a very fun fighter to watch because she is all offense, she's all gas, no brakes. She's got no cardio whatsoever, and I think, I could be mistaken, I think she is training at Team Alpha Male now with Yan Xiaonan and Song Yadong, but I could be wrong about that because I do think she did change camps before fighting Aldrich, but JJ Aldrich is a good fighter, to be fair, and she beat Liang, but Petrovic, she disappointed me a lot in her debut. It looked like she had absolutely no idea what she was doing the entire time she fought Luana Carolina. but I think she's got better cardio than Liang. She does wrestle, which is scary because Liang's a really lights out grappler, but I think that Petrovic should be able to get it done. Liang's going to be dangerous in the first round, but she is going to gas out like she always does, and Petrovic is going to come back. Liang might win the first round, but I think Petrovic is going to win the second and the third, and Liang might be so gassed out in that third round, Petrovic might be able to finish her. So give me Petrovic, third round finish or decision, honestly. It's not a very high level fight, but we'll move on. James Llontop taking on Gabe Green. I'm going with Gabe Green here. I don't think this is a very confident pick whatsoever, but I am not that sold on James Llontop. I'll be honest, James Llontop is a striker for the most part, but he's not very powerful at 155 pounds at all, and he's quite sloppy, and 155 pounds is going to be one of those divisions where you do have to have some technique. He did recently beat Malik Lewis, but Malik Lewis was having success, and actually prior to that event, I did get a tip from somebody. I'm not going to say who it was, but they said that they knew someone who knew someone that knows that Malik Lewis just doesn't train. Apparently Malik Lewis is lazy, just doesn't train at all. And yeah, Malik Lewis gassed out completely, and then Llontop couldn't finish him. So shame on me for picking Malik Lewis in that matchup. It is what it is. Gabe Green, Gabe Green's difficult because he's had brain injuries in his past or something along those lines, really serious health issues. But then he beat Phil Rowe, which is a really good win. Beat Johan Linnes, which isn't that good of a win, but he knocked him out after getting knocked down. Gave Ian Gary a pretty tough fight with a lot of clinching, and then got slept by Brian Battle while running forward like an absolute idiot. Coming down to 155 pounds, he wasn't really the biggest guy for 170, but he's going to be stronger than James Llontop, and I think he is going to be able to out-wrestle James Llontop in this one here. Llontop goes for his own offensive takedowns, which he shouldn't do here, I don't think. I think Llontop's sloppy, man, and I am willing to get proven wrong because Llontop does seem like a very fun guy to have in the UFC because he is going to be aggressive. He is going to try and get finishes, even though I don't think he is the most powerful guy at 155. And he's got cool face tattoos, I guess, which gives him an interesting look. I'm going to go with Green to win a decision here. I don't feel that good about it at all, but I'm not sold on Llontop. I'm not sold on him at all. And now we've got Ketlen Souza versus Marnic Mann, and I think that Ketlen Souza is going to be able to finish Marnic Mann in this matchup. She's minus 340, which is kind of crazy, I guess, but Marnic Mann, like, no disrespect to her, but she's too small for 115 pounds. I know women's atom weight isn't a thing in the UFC, but she is too small for 115 pounds. She's got no striking whatsoever. She's got no defense whatsoever. All she does is wrestle, and even then, she's too small to outmuscle a lot of these girls that she's taking on. And she got smoked by Josephine Knudsen. But Josephine Knudsen really annoyed me in that matchup because Marnic Mann was absolutely destroyed in that fight. Knudsen was beating the daylights out of her. And then Marnic Mann was like scared of her, like she was like tensing up, like as if a shot was coming, like Knudsen was gonna knock her lights out. Then Knudsen would shoot a takedown, but it's a story for a different day. Ketlen Souza's a savage. She goes for takedowns. I think she's going to be better than Marnic Mann. She's going to be significantly more dangerous in this matchup as well. Mann showed that if you do put a beating on her, she's going to gas out, and I think that's what's going to happen. I think Ketlen Souza is going to be able to take down Mann. She's going to be able to beat up Mann on the feet. I think she's going to be able to find a finish in round 2 or round 3 over a gassed out Marnic Mann. I think Ketlen Souza is going to be able to get it done in this fight. Don'Tale Mayes versus Caio Machado. Picking Caio Machado as an underdog, and a lot of people are probably going to come out here and say, I don't understand why Machado is the underdog. Honestly, I kind of do. Because Machado, you watch this guy's tape and you look at this guy's level of competition, this guy has been beating guys that are older than my father. I believe Lee Main was 56 years old, 54 years old at the time that he fought him with an 11-15 record. And he didn't beat him once. I think he beat him twice, which is absolutely shameful behavior. He did beat Lee Main in 2021, and then he beat 54-year-old Lee Main in 2021 again. Absolutely shameful behavior. Chris Larson was actually a somewhat decent opponent that he beat. Edison Lopez was 46 years old once again. Is younger than my dad, but is definitely old enough to be my dad. craziness, honestly. He's been beating old men. And then Kevin Szyzewski did absolutely nothing. That fat, polar bear looking man stood there and did nothing in the matchup. And Caio Machado, through his super sloppy striking, silly little, just absolute horrific technique boxing, and beat the piss out of that fat man, Kevin Szyzewski. 3 rounds straight. And then he lost his debut to Mick Parkin. Mick Parkin's good. Caio Machado, in my opinion, at heavyweight is actually a very good grappler. A lot of his wins do come by submission, and he does have very nice movement on the ground for a heavyweight. But I think his striking is really sloppy. I think it's really bad. But if he goes out there against Don'Tale Mayes, so I do think it's a little bit, well, one-dimensional, I should say, he should be able to take down Don'Tale Mayes. To be fair, Mayes did defend the former Olympian wrestler Hamdi Abdelwahab's takedowns pretty well. But I think that Mayes on the feet is going to be the much better striker, even though he does make a lot of silly mistakes like throwing jumping kicks and doing all sorts of silly stuff. If Caio Machado comes into this matchup and looks to take down Mayes and looks to out-wrestle Mayes, he should find a lot of success in this matchup. I don't think a lot of the guys that Machado has beaten are that good. I will admit, Kevin Szyzewski on the regional scene looked really good and looked like he had really high-level boxing, and then he did absolutely nothing on the Contender Series. Caio Machado, I'm going to pick him to win by submission over Mayes. Mayes does have good takedown defense, it's worth noting, but I do think Machado should just be able to kind of rush forward and rush Mayes and then get him down. It's just a sloppy, low-level heavyweight fight. And now we move on to lightweight, and it doesn't really get that much better, does it? Because Austen Hubbard was released from the UFC, then he went on The Ultimate Fighter and beat a few guys that, you know, were okay, I guess. I mean, Aaron McKenzie, not that great, but Roosevelt Roberts looked good on the show, I will admit. I mean, knocked out that guy in 9 seconds, which is kind of cool. Loses to Kurt Holobar. But before that, he was in the UFC, and he was cut from the UFC, and now he's back, taking on Michal Figlak, who hasn't fought for 2 years, or a year and 7, same thing. He hasn't fought for 2 years, and in that time, he's been battling injuries, which is a little bit scary when you do think of his style, which is a very heavy wrestling kind of based style, or at least that's how he looked on the regional scene. He didn't really fight with that pace too much. I mean, Ziam was taking him down. Ziam looked so good in that matchup, I will be honest, looked much better than I expected. But he was taking down this guy, Agi Sadari, a lot. And he won just a lot of his fights in his career using his wrestling. And Austen Hubbard, I do actually think of Austen Hubbard as a pretty decent wrestler when I do consider his skill set. And his striking's okay, but it's a little bit slow. But so is Michal Figlak's. I'm picking Michal Figlak, and there's no odds for this fight. That's actually a little bit annoying. So I'm just going to mid-video. This video's a mess as it is anyway. So I guess I can do this. Michal Figlak, where is he sitting? Minus 140, Austen Hubbard's plus 115. It makes sense. I'm picking Michal Figlak, and I'm not confident in it whatsoever. Rani Yahya is taking on, man, UFC 301 cannot come fast enough. Actually, I'm not going to complain about this fight too much, because I do like Henry, even though he's a minus 700 favorite. But man, UFC 301, just please, get here soon. Rani Yahya versus Victor Henry. I'm going to pick Victor Henry here. Rani Yahya, at this point in his career, is a little bit one-dimensional. In the past, you could say that Rani Yahya used to use his strikes pretty well to set up his takedowns, but I feel like now, at the age of 39 years old, he can't do that. And Victor Henry, he's almost 37, but I'm never going to forget Victor Henry's performance against Raoni Barcelos, where he showed up on short notice through, I think, the bantamweight record in strikes in a 15-minute fight, and then just dipped. He just dipped. And then he fought Assunção and lost. Predicting MMA fights doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But before that, you know, he beat Tony Gravely, which is a similar stylistic matchup, I feel. And I feel like Victor Henry, although he is primarily a grappler, which is what I thought he was before he fought against Raoni Barcelos, he does have good striking, he does have good cardio, he does have good volume. He's going to be the better striker in this matchup. If Rani Yahya cannot get the fight down to the ground, he's going to get pieced up for 3 rounds. He's going to lose a decision, and he might be able to get TKO'd by Victor Henry, which would be an interesting sight, as I don't think Victor Henry's got a KO in a long time. I know he's got a finish before by TKO, but we might be talking about years ago. Yes, 2020. 4 years ago at this point, which is craziness. But yeah, I'm going to pick Henry by decision. Minus 700. Not really worth putting in parlays, I feel. Tim Means taking on Uroš Medic. Tim Means, actually, I lied. He's coming off a win. No, this is the main card, though. Okay, that makes sense. Tim Means is coming off a win. The first fighter in the UFC to come off a win in the UFC is on the main card. What a card. What a card. I'm picking Uroš Medic. He's looked good at 170. If I'm not mistaken, he used to fight at 155, but he was very, very big for the weight class. I think he never missed a weight, but it was always a tough weight cut. Yes, that's true. That's true. Feels good to know that I'm speaking facts. I'm just yapping. Uroš Medic, I think he's going to be good against Tim Means because I think he's going to be the better striker. Tim Means is a tough guy, but he is been getting finished in his career. He's only been getting KO'd twice, but he was finished pretty recently by Alex Morono in a matchup which he took damage in. Max Griffin in a fight which, although Tim Means genuinely thought he lost and Max Griffin really thought he won, you could argue that Tim Means won that fight. You really could. And then before that, he did lose to Kevin Holland. But Kevin Holland was kind of testing the waters at 170 at that time. I think that Uroš Medic is going to be the better striker. I think he's going to be the more dynamic striker. He's 9 years younger. He's faster. He's more powerful at this point in time, I think, as well. I think he's going to catch Tim Means. But Tim Means could be a really good underdog, you know, because Tim Means is a tricky fighter. He's a tricky guy to deal with, but I do think Uroš Medic should be able to go out there and get it done. Now, Jonathan Pearce is going to be taking on David Onama. We've got two fighters in the UFC coming off a win on this card. Let's go. I'm going to be picking Jonathan Pearce, and Jonathan Pearce, I know for a fact, is actually not an underdog. He's minus 170. Okay. I'm picking Jonathan Pearce as the big favourite then, I guess. I do think that he's going to be able to beat David Onama here. Jonathan Pearce, although he did make himself look like an absolute idiot in his last fight against Joanderson Brito, where he was taking down Joanderson Brito a bit, and then he said something like, stand up and do something, boy. And then Joanderson Brito stood up, and he choked him out unconscious with a guillotine ninja choke sort of situation. It was kind of hilarious, to be honest with you. But besides from that, JSP was on a run, man, and he's been beating good guys. Christian Rodriguez fought him on short notice, but Rodriguez is a good fighter, as we have kind of learnt to know now. He knocked out Marquino Makani after Makani gassed out, beat Darren Elkins in a fight that was a lot more competitive than it probably should have been, but he's a wrestler, and he's massive for 145 pounds, absolutely gigantic for the weight class, a very good wrestler, and when he gets you down, he looks to deal damage and not chase for submissions. And I think he's going to be able to get down David Onama. The thing about Onama, though, is once again, he's going to be a very good underdog in this fight because he is a dynamic, powerful striker. Unfortunately, an Israel Adesanya fan, so he does lose coolness points for that from me because of his celebration after beating Gabriel Santos. But he lost to Nate the Train in a fight which he gassed out badly in. He beat Garrett Armfield in a fight which has aged very well, even though Armfield took him on short notice upper weight class. And he knocked out Gabriel Benitez with one of the best combo TKOs I think we've ever seen, where he landed like 10 strikes on Gabriel Benitez's chin. It was incredible stuff, to be honest. JSP, he's going to be the worst striker here. Significantly, I would say Onama's a really nice striker and he can grapple, but he gassed out so bad against Nate the Train when JSP is going to be shooting for takedowns and getting them over and over and over again. That gas tank over Onama's is going to be absolutely sapped. And I think that JSP is just going to be able to control him for 3 rounds to win a decision. Maybe ground and pound TKO because he does do a lot of damage on the ground and he is very powerful. But I'm going to go with the Jonathan Pearce decision into this fight. I move up to Jhonata Diniz versus Austen Lane, and this is actually a hard fight to call again, and once again, no one in this fight is coming off a win in the UFC, because it's Diniz's debut off a Contender Series fight. Jhonata Diniz, for a guy that used to fight in Glory Kickboxing, he is really slow. Like, really slow. This guy used to fight in Glory Kickboxing way back in the day, at the start of it, Glory 2, just kind of occurred to me. That was one of the first ever Glory Kickboxing events, I would assume, or one of the first numbered ones, and he was fighting in Glory Kickboxing all the way up until 2017, where he started to fight for different promotions in kickboxing, and then he committed, it seems, to MMA, and it has worked out quite well for him because he has been knocking people out silly. But I do want to say that Jhonata Diniz, although he does have the kickboxing pedigree, although he does have unbelievable power as well for this weight class, he is not a fast heavyweight by any means, and he doesn't move that quickly. Whereas Austen Lane, I do consider Austen Lane, although he's 36 years old, to be a very athletic guy for the weight class. He's 6'6" with an 80-inch reach. He's relatively quick, but the problem with Lane is he leaves himself so open for counters. You know, like this guy will throw a combination or he'll throw a strike, and he'll just hang out in the pocket for memes and gigs, I guess. I don't know, just hangs out in the pocket. And if you give Jhonata Diniz an opportunity to snipe you in the pocket, or even just in general, because when he got caught by Justin Tuff, it was by this, was it a left hook? I thought it was like this crazy overhand right. Maybe I'm missing, maybe it was a crazy left hook, I don't know. I remember when Tuffer knocked him out, it was by this crazy overhand, I thought it was. But anyway, Jhonata Diniz, I think he's going to be able to touch the chin of Lane. It is worth noting that Neves wasn't, I guess he was confusing Diniz a little bit, because Neves is a guy that is very fast, very much throws in combination, and he was kind of overwhelming Diniz for a little bit there, and Diniz was starting to look a little bit slow, as I have said, because he is slow, but then he just absolutely slept Neves. Oh my goodness, this guy's got power. I'm telling you, I think Diniz is going to knock out Lane, but just be wary of him. He's not the fastest guy for this weight class. We don't know how good his wrestling is either, because he's knocked out everyone in the first round, and Lane is a guy that can wrestle and could wrestle potentially in the matchup. Just worth noting. Just worth noting. Now we've got Karine Silva versus Lipski, and I'm picking Karine Silva as the underdog in this fight. I think she's going to be a very popular underdog. In fact, she might not even be the underdog anymore. She's not. Karine Silva's minus 120 and Lipski's plus 100. So that has been bet up to make Silva the favorite. So Silva's not the underdog anymore. She was at one point, but she's not now. And it does kind of make sense, because I do believe that Silva is going to be able to go out there and take down Lipski. Now, on paper, Lipski does have incredible takedown defense. It's like 80% or something like that, which is very, very impressive. And it's also worth noting again, two of these fighters on the card are coming off a win in the UFC. So what's that, four? Four fighters on the card are coming off a win in the UFC? Unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. Who could have thought? Lipski, 3-fight win streak. Win over Casey O'Neill, great win. Win over Melissa Gatto, in my opinion, a great win. Win over JJ Aldrich, in my opinion, again, a pretty good win. I know Aldrich doesn't have a good record, but she's a good fighter. Karine Silva's just different, though. Like, she's got finishing ability on the ground big time, but she has been working on her striking, which is getting even better. So many finishes in her career. Her win as well on the Contender Series is over Kihi Yan, who had a 22-3 record at the time. And I was going to say, she has been looking good herself recently, because she did beat one of the better fighters in China called Miao Ding late last year. Karine Silva, though, I feel like there's just kind of a lot to like about her, with the ability to finish fights, especially at this weight class. You're not seeing many girls go out there and just finishing fights like her. I know Lipski is the much, much better striker in this matchup. I know Lipski has very good takedown defense, and I know Lipski is no bum on the ground. In fact, she's a very good striker herself. I think it's just going to come down to the fact that Karine Silva just finishes fights, man, and she's so strong as well. 5'5" at 125, so she's just got a lot of strength to her, a lot of muscle. I think she's going to go out there and take down Lipski and just look good on the mat, to be honest with you. I don't really think that we've seen too many crazy weaknesses from Silva yet. We have seen Lipski lose a few fights in her career, but she's been really turning it around recently. I do like Silva, though, as the favorite now. I really liked her as the underdog, not an underdog no more, and it does make sense. Ryan Spann versus Bogdan Guskov is your co-main event, and once again, wow, that's 5 fighters on this card in the UFC coming off a win. This is crazy. 5. I think that's it, because Nicolau and Perez are coming off a loss, aren't they? 5 out of 26 fighters are coming off a win in the UFC on this card. That is just unbelievable stuff. Unbelievable stuff. Spann versus Guskov. I think Guskov only has power, and he has absolutely nothing else. I don't think Spann is that good, though. That's the thing about Spann, is I don't think he's very good at all. Like, he kind of sucks, to be honest with you. He's not... all he's got is athleticism. So it's athleticism versus power. One thing I know for sure is Spann has better cardio than Guskov. Guskov as well, when you land on Guskov, he folds, man. Like, he's got absolutely nothing if you hit him hard. So I'm going to go with Spann. I think he's going to land on Guskov at some point in the fight, and Guskov's going to fold, or he's going to completely gas out. Spann can grapple, and he does grapple when he needs to, even though he's got like so many submissions. Trust me, this guy is not just shooting for legs like he probably should. I think he is going to be able to take down Guskov with little to no problems whatsoever. and get a finish at some point. Honestly, Spann by submission could be like pretty decent odds. I think that's kind of what I'm going to go with here. Spann by sub. I mean, this is just such a, what a fight this is, because it's so hard to predict, but it's actually going to be so good. This is the best fight on the card, aside from the main event. I mean, it's the co-main, so I guess it makes sense. But Spann versus Guskov, a lot of power on both sides. I mean, both guys are going to try and knock each other out. I don't think either guy are the highest level guys at light heavyweight, but at least Spann is so much more proven than Guskov. He has proven that he's got wrestling. He has proven he's got grappling. Guskov only has power. He's got no cardio. He wilts under pressure. I'm going to go Spann. I'm going to go Spann by submission. And then to move on to the main event, we have Matheus Nicolau taking on Alex Perez. I'm picking Nicolau, but the amount of people picking Perez is putting me off, I'm not going to lie. This is kind of like another situation where it's Alex Pereira versus Jamahal Hill, where I've got high confidence in Alex Pereira, but like seems like half the population is picking Jamahal Hill to win. It's this one here. Oh, I'm pretty confident Nicolau's going to win this fight. And then half the population's picking Perez to win. Or not half. I mean, not as many people are picking Perez as they were a Hill, but there are so many people out there picking Perez to win this fight. And I understand it's kind of fun to root for Perez because he's come back after, I believe, a lot of stuff going on in the background. I know a lot of people make fun of Perez, but I do think he has had quite a bit go on. He came out there against Mikhaev, and some people seem to think that he could have won the fight. I think it was a very close fight. I don't think he won the fight, but it was a close fight, and he gave Mikhaev a good fight. And now he's taking on Nicolau on short notice. So after not fighting and pulling out of fights for years, here he is, taking on the top guys in the weight class. And honestly, I don't really blame him, because if he beats Nicolau, he's probably one fight away from a title shot at this weight class, you know? So there's definitely kind of a bit going on there. But I think that in this matchup, Nicolau is a nice technical striker, and I feel like Perez at 125 pounds is a little bit more of a brawler on the feet. I think Nicolau is more technical, and I do think that Nicolau is going to have the ability to shoot for takedowns and get his grappling going in this matchup. Perez, once again, does have very good takedown defense, and he did showcase it pretty well against Mikhaev, even though Mikhaev was able to get him down. I think that Nicolau was going to be able to mix up striking, because I think Nicolau is the better striker out of him and Mikhaev. And I think that Nicolau is going to be able to mix up his striking to get the takedowns on Alex Perez. But once again, I guess a lot of people are trying to root for the underdog in this fight here. I just don't really see it. That's the crazy thing. I don't see Perez beating Nicolau unless he knocks him out. And I don't think he's going to knock out Matheus Nicolau. At the end of the day, Matheus Nicolau got knocked out by the guy that just beat Brandon Moreno, and now people seem to think that Nicolau sucks. Like what's really going on here? You know, Brandon Royval, what are we doing? Are we just looking at numbers on a paper? 16-7 record. Oh, he's not that good. He is good. I mean, look at his resume. Look at the guys he's beaten. I'm confused, man. I'm confused. Once again, Nicolau. I guess Nicolau's wins have aged poorly. A lot of people don't think he beat Manuel Karp. But he did beat Felipe Efrain, who's a good fighter now at 135 pounds. Tamelia, Dvorak. Okay, these are terrible wins in hindsight, aren't they? I see it, but no, I don't. I'm picking Nicolau. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh my goodness, this card is horrible, isn't it? Oh my goodness, this is an absolutely horrific card.